The 2024 season in review, the special bite-sized episodes of One Soccer today as we go club by club across the country. And today we are headed to Spruce Meadows, where there is currently about 10 centimeters of snow on the ground and 20 more to come this week. And a perfect time to talk a little footy. Listen, the vibes are high there, snow or no snow at the moment, because they are, of course, your Canadian Premier League champions. Defeat Forge in the big game. They come just a few points shy of the double once again. That's the story that we kind of let sneak under the radar. They only finished 2 points off of Forge for the regular season title. They're headed to CONCACAF Champions Cup, and just everything that could have went right minus those 2 extra points. One of those wins from a draw, it was there. A storybook ending. So let's ask a question then, Jordan Wilson. Have Cavalry taken the crown from Forge? Are they the banner club now in the Canadian Premier League with all their success in 2024?
No, but they had a great year. They've had a great 2 seasons. There's a lot that Tommy Wooden Jr. and company could feel fantastic about. But in the context of the CPL, since the beginning, and also all the matches that Forge have played outside of the CPL, we can't say that. What we can say is Forge and Cavalry recruit the best. What we can say is Forge and Cavalry are the 2 best teams in the CPL. And what Cavalry can say right now is that they're feeling the best, that they won that last game. There's players that have been at that club since the beginning, and they know right now that they can feel like king of the hill. But in the context of everything, no chance are they the better club. We can't say that.
Oliver Platt.
It's an interesting question. Like, we're doing a lot of hums. I think if you just look at the process and take the results away, there is very little to separate Forge and Cavalry. Like, both clubs do everything well. They develop players, they sell players, they develop staff, their style of play is attractive to watch. They've been consistently growing their fan bases over the years and are getting better and better crowds. They recruit well, like Jordan said. Like, everything that goes into the running of a successful club, I think these 2 clubs do better than anyone else in the Canadian Premier League, and I don't think there's a lot between them. One of the few areas where you can separate them is not so much the process, it's the results, right? And, you know, Cavalry now have 1 championship, but Forge still have 4. So on that basis, I think you still have to give Forge the edge in terms of who's been, you know, the biggest club or the best club or however you want to call it over the course of CPL history. But in terms of what the work they're actually doing in Calgary, you can't knock it. Like, it's been exemplary. It's been first class for several years now.
Yeah,
right there,
they are 1A and 1B. Put them in whatever order you want. Give Forge, I guess, a slight edge because they went on and, to Ollie's point, have won North Star Cups. But let's talk about the number 4 in a different aspect here. They lost 4 games all season. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's it. And only finished 2 points back of Forge on the season. This was an incredible campaign. And much like Forge, who went on to win the regular season, had significant questions coming in. They lost their leading goal scorer and co-Golden Boot winner from a season ago in Meyer Bevan. The way that they recruit, they didn't have anyone that could really attack down the left side of the field either. The shape, the mentality, their approach, it remains consistent. This time around, they were able to do something that they haven't been able to do. They turned over the calendar and they made it Cavs season, not Forge season, Cavs season. They instead, starting with a bang, they got better as the season went on. And that's a good recipe for success going forward as well, that this team, to Ollie's point, knows how to recruit, knows what they need to do to take the next step, and everything aligned for them. They got healthy at the right time, and it was just an outstanding season. Like, look, they were right there for the regular season. They just drew too many games. They were such a tough team to beat, and there's something to be said for that.
Quickly, Jenko as well. The injuries hit them, and they never panicked. Tommy Wooden Jr. did not panic. Got the right people involved, used the right players at the right time. So that's something to be said about.
I had the audacity to ask him partway through the season if he was nervous about not making the playoffs.
Yeah.
I mean, they were just hovering around 5, 6 for a long time because they drew every game, and then all of a sudden they got fit and whoosh to the moon.
Henri missing the last 6 or 7 weeks of the season. Willie Accio going down, and Kelowna not coming back. They were able to plug and
Everything's
play.
to the
And
moon.
these are the Gareth loves to the moon right now. These are the questions, of course, that Tommy Wheeldon Jr. will be thinking of this offseason, and that's sort of what's next. And depending on when you're watching this episode, because I'm told it airs on a mysterious date in December, you'll know if you're watching after December 10th, the CONCACAF Champions Cup opponent, and that's just in February. So there's some business that Tommy Wheeldon Jr. needs to get done fairly certain. Who's guaranteed? Who still needs to get signed? Where are the absences? So when we think about this offseason in terms of needs and what the club needs to do, Oliver Platt, where would you say the priority lies in Calgary?
Well, from what I've heard, most of the core of this team is under contract and is going to be back next season. So it's going to be fairly consistent, I think, from this season to next, which is great for them. The big one, obviously, is Dan Klomp, who is out of contract, and his future, again, at the time of recording, we don't know what that looks like yet. Is he leaving? Could he move up a level? Could he still come back to Cavalry? I don't think that's been entirely ruled out at this point either. So he's a massive player for them, obviously has been for a number of years now. And it's not just that he's a top defender, a top centre back. Like the way they play, the way he kind of sets the tempo for them, playing out from the back is so important and is going to be so difficult to replace. And I think you can see increasingly it's a very important part of the game to have that kind of ball playing defender. And it was even in the CPL playoffs, you could see on a couple of different occasions that it was costly when teams didn't have that. So he's the best at it in the league. And what happens with him, I think, is the biggest question mark in terms of a potential replacement they're going to need.
Okay, Jordo. So Ollie might have taken the layup answer. So you're gonna have to do a little digging here now.
For me, I look at them. I think one area to like really break down for this season is goals for. They had 39, and Warshevsky, he got hot at the right time, but had nearly a third of them. Look, attacking options. I think also too you have to look yourself in the mirror, and I think Tommy Wheeldon Jr. does in terms of you have impactful attacking players, but you understand that at a 28 game season, also with Can Champs, also with Champions League Cup, that you're not going to have those players healthy. Like Camargo is fantastic, was a pain to play against. Musi, when he's hot, is the best player in the league, if not one of. You put him in the top three, whatever you want to do. But they're not going to play all the time. Finding attacking players. So I think for me is getting a number 9. And I say this because playing in this league as well, there was one bad boy in Wero Diaz in 2022 that you always have to fear and watch. But other than that, you're like, okay, well, you kind of get familiar with strikers. If they could get an X factor the way that Warshevsky was this year, someone that's in the box that can poach, that could just be a pest for defenders, then that frees up Camargo, Herdman, Musi, other players to get more time on the ball because there's a threat up top. I think also, too, it's a lot to ask Warshevsky to have the same season that he did this year next season. It's hard to do back-to-back. If he scores 8 goals next year, that's a success. But asking him to score 12 and be a guy that is dangerous and taking the team to the promised land again, I mean, yeah, if he does that, he won't be staying at Cavalry very long.
Yeah. Clumpy's the best. Just an unreal talent, has been for years. But center backs are replaceable in the Canadian Premier League. Look at Forge year after year, the quality center backs that they've lost and the players that they've been able to fill in and backfill. Pacific loses, Didic, they carry on. I'm not so much worried about that. I think Callum Montgomery, by the way, under the radar, sneaky good. If he can stay fit,
player.
he's an
Great
excellent
engineer.
center back. They need more goals. Jordan is absolutely right. Warshevsky's not a natural number 9. He can play that position. They never really fully replaced Meyer Bevan, the goals that they lost through him. They drew 12 games on the season, largely because they couldn't score enough. Is Jay Herdman back next season? If not, they desperately need to address that left wing position as well. So across the attacking 3, more depth, more goals. That is first and foremost what they need this offseason.
All right, we'll see if there's any inter-CPL moves or if they look outside as well. And hey, Eric Kobza, might he be ready? Third-year pro. He certainly doesn't replace everything Dan Klomp does, but is Cavalry's backline more vulnerable if it is a Kobza-Montgomery situation? I'm sure that's one of the questions that Tommy Wheeldon Jr. is asking himself right now. And as we discussed earlier, injuries are a thing in the Canadian Premier League. So if you feel like there's a part of your team that's maybe a little frail, if there's 1 or 2 bumps and bruises down the way, maybe that's something you try to address as well. So as Ollie says, from our understanding, a good chunk of this team for 2025 is under contract. So there's not much need to worry about how many departures there will be per se, barring sales. But of this group, this core, understanding or assuming Dan Klump has suitors and might not be available, Gareth Wheeler, who is their most important piece heading into 2025?
It's 100%. It's Ali Musi. He's arguably the most valuable player for a team out of all teams in the Canadian Premier League. Without Ali Musi, they're just a completely different squad. He missed 12 games. They won 3 games over that 12-game span. Yes, they drew a lot of them, but when he was in the team, like they played over the course of all games and all competitions through 22 games that Ali Musi played on the season, they only lost 4 times. 2 of them was to Orlando in the Champions Cup. The other 2-1 against Forge. They won a whopping 16 of those games. Like Ali Musi takes his team from being a very good team to a great team. There is no one player more important to his side. The numbers bear it. His play shows it. Ali Musi, no question, the most important and most valuable player for Cavalry.
Oliver Platt.
I love Ali. He's a brilliant player and one of the most important players in the league. But I have to take issue with some of the things that have been said over the past 5 minutes. Firstly, that Tobias Warshevsky is not a natural number 9, and I believe Jordan said as well that a successful season
8
for him
goals,
will be 8 goals next season. Like
guys,
I don't know if I've ever seen.
Okay, so hold on. Before you go further, how many goals? How many goals would make a successful season for a number 9? What is he need again?
The way he plays, the player he is, I think 12. At least
it's success. So if he gets like 10, you're like, oh, he was soft.
10 he's had a decent year.
14 plus, at least a goal every 2 games has to be.
This guy just like
scoring 14 plus.
The perennial championship winner in. Never seen any individual player dominate.
For it to be a successful season, it needs to be a dozen, more than a dozen.
His own manager wasn't even playing him as a number 9 when he had other options. He was playing on the right. He was playing all over the place.
That's
not
true. This is your moment.
Garrett, he spent 18 months, what I can only assume was sitting on a couch in Germany, maybe going to the gym a few times. He came back
for this moment.
He acclimatized to the altitude, and we're like, oh yeah, that's what that guy can do. I'm with Ollie on this one. 1,000%.
He does everything you want from a number 9. He can come short and hold the ball up. He can battle with centre backs. He scores goals. He's mobile. Like, I don't think there's a better number 9 in the league, and I'm not sure there ever has been.
Recency bias.
Love that take. Jordan Wilson, if you can compose.
Look, this is what happens.
Yourself.
We get excited. We get very excited. Look, I'm not saying Tobias Warshevsky is not a fantastic player. I'm not saying that he's not an MVP for Cavalry or the most important player. What I'm saying is that you could use him in other roles. We see him on that left side and he comes in and he creates.
Sure, but that doesn't mean.
What about a world? Okay, what about a world if they got a number 9 that is going to score 7 goals or is a handful?
Play him underneath.
How much freedom Warshevsky would have if you had him at the 10 or a second striker? You guys, I don't know what is happening today. Am I getting punked?
I'm with you.
This guy,
I'm with you.
Really,
I agree.
You'd rather bring in a 7-goal striker than bring in another winger and keep Camargo,
because it's about the whole team and how everyone feels. And the best player is Warshevsky, by the way. Musi is the most talented player, but the best player, MVP, Warshevsky by far. And we saw it in the final. It was men playing against boys. I understand your point, Wheels, but
Bobby Smyrniotis changed his tactics for the final just to try to deal with Ali Musi by playing Malik Oluwabibelu in that position. Because Ali Musi is the game changer. He's the player that you plan to play against.
Warshevsky won them the entire playoffs. He won them the semifinal and he won them the final.
Okay, here's my question since we have 60 seconds of extra time here. Last year, Cavalry won the league with 55 points, I believe. They finished 48 this year, 2 points off of Forge. Their best ever, 2019. Gareth mentions the fact that they only lost 4 times this year. That was the same back then. They had 62 points. Quickly, do you think that can fall this year, Oliver Platt?
62. I don't know. I think they're going to be very strong just as on the basis that they have so many players coming back. But I also would not underestimate the loss of Klump. That's not just a bring in another centre-back type of player. He's top class.
All right, Gareth Wheeler, what do you think? 62? No?
No, because there's more
untouchable
parity,
2019.
more parity in the CPL now.
Excellent.
And I think that the teams that are weaker, just the gap is smaller. So we'll see.
All right, clean sweep, Jordan Wilson.
Yeah.
Leave that one in the museum.
Yeah.
Some dust on the
Yes.
shelves. All right. Our look back at Cavalry's incredible 2024 season, the league champions. Thanks for joining us today on One Soccer Today.